In 1976, my wife and I were living here in western Montana at St. Ignatius. We'd started a church, and next to the church was a little shack that some people lived in and had children that they mistreated. The court came and took them away from them and brought them to Nancy and I to clean them up and said, we've got to put them in some other homes, but they're too dirty. Will you clean them up? And we did. And we got them new clothes on them and scrubbed them down. And then they came and took them away. And we looked at each other and said, what's the matter with this picture? The church ought to be taking care of children who are in need like this. Pure religion, James says, is taking care of the fatherless. This father did not take care of his children. The mother wasn't able to. And that was the beginning of our desire to do something for them. It's been a dream that we started on a shoestring and faith, and a dream that God has enabled us to see fulfilled in a mighty way. That now, here, many years later, we have a ranch that has been a place where over 500 kids have come and found a new start for their lives. Some of them have become in the military, soldiers, serving our country, in various walks of life, teachers, even a lawyer, and various success stories that we could share. But the biggest success is that they've come to know Jesus Christ. This program is centered around the fact that He is Lord. The Bible is God's Word. And when we follow God's Word, we're going to have a happy life and a productive life, and one that will lead us to God's heaven.
Pinehaven Christian Children's Ranch is a 1,120-acre kid and cattle ranch in northwestern Montana. We take kids from all over the United States, and these are kids that come from a background of kicked out of school, sex, drugs, and alcohol. Parents don't know what to do with them, running away from home, and they need to get their lives back on track. And so the ranch that we have here in Montana is kind of like a boarding school where they will come and they will stay for an average of about 1.5 to 2.5 years, although we've had one boy was with us for 13 years. All kind of depends on the family situation and what they need. But, we're not just giving swimming lessons at Pinehaven. We're doing lifeboat rescues because these kids are about to fall off the edge. Pinehaven is not supported by the parents of the kids, nor do we receive any government support. Pinehaven is supported solely by churches and individuals that want to give to make Pinehaven possible. And the parents, they can't afford what it takes to take care of a kid at a place like this. And so there's a lot of people from around the country that give to make it possible for these kids to be here at Pinehaven. One of the nice things about being here at Pinehaven is these kids get away from the worldly things that are keeping them from the Lord. The things at school, the things in their environment, all of that. And sometimes by taking a kid from one environment and moving them to another one, they have an opportunity to leave those roadblocks to their future in the past, and then they can move on from there. The Lord chose Bob and Nancy Larson to start Pinehaven. It took somebody like Bob to be able to come up with not only the ground, but the facilities that Pinehaven is blessed to have today. They moved from Illinois in the 50s to work with the native people here, the Indian tribes that were in the area. And as they were doing that, they started a church and a church camp. And eventually in 1976, they were able to start Pinehaven Christian Children's Ranch. And that's been over 40 years ago. We've had over 500 kids come through our program. Almost every single one of those has given their life to Christ and been baptized into Him. And so kind of fun where our history comes from and kind of the shift in the focus at the time. But Pinehaven has been blessed to be a ministry of the First Christian Church of St. Ignatius now for over 40 years, and we will continue to do so. The people that are fighting on the front lines at Pinehaven are our house parents. They're the core of our program. They're the ones that are in the trenches fighting off Satan as he tries to tear down these kids day in and day out. And our house parents are the most amazing people in the world. They have moved from family and home, wherever that is, and they're a lot like missionaries. Come all the way to Montana and just give of their lives 24/7 for these kids. And they still get some time off and that sort of thing, but for the most part, they are with these kids all the time. The kids live in their homes, they go to school here on the ranch, but the family life is something that is disintegrating in the United States. And so what we're trying to do is rebuild that family, show these kids what a family unit is supposed to look like according to how God set that up. And they have 3 meals a day around the table where the house parents are there with the kids, and they have devotions, and one of the kids will pray for the meal. But how many families in the United States today eat 3 meals a day around the table? And it's just such important family time, and it's good for these kids. I mean, they walk home from school for that lunch meal during the school year to have that there. But our house parents are always our number one need. Jesus said that the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And we need more house parents all the time because we want to help as very many kids as we can. And this is our front line here at Pinehaven, is our house parents. Most of our kids, when they come to us, are behind in school, at least in certain subjects. And so we give them placement tests when they come to us to find out where they are in each of the different subjects so we can start them there and hopefully get them to the point where they can graduate by the time they turn 18. Now, we do have our own school here on the premises, and that makes this so much easier to do. And also, you have that same expectation between home and school, and the house parents and the school teachers keep in touch, and it's good to have everybody on the same page all the time, and that really does help these kids with that kind of a structure. And so when the kids come into our school, they take that placement test, and then we get them outfitted with a number of, it's actually a homeschool curriculum called Alpha Omega. And so the kids can work at their own pace because each of our classrooms will have a number of different ages and grades in it. And so each of our teachers has to know a lot of information, but the kids are able to work at their own pace through each of the different subjects, math, English, all of those. One of the things that we do in our school is it is a private Christian school. And so the kids do a course in Bible, a subject that they have to complete before they can graduate. Many of them have gone on to Bible college and have even helped seniors with their homework because they know a lot about the Bible by the time they graduate from our program. This last year at Pinehaven, we had 5 graduates, and some of those were signed up to go to the military, some of them for college, some of them are getting ready to go into the workforce. And so it's always a blessing to see those kids graduate and move on from there, and they're ready to go out and tackle life wherever that may be. In this case, I believe it's going to be the Army and some of the other colleges and workforce around. But always a great day at Pinehaven. At Pinehaven, the kids live on a working kid and cattle ranch, so there's always a lot to do, and we're able to teach these kids a work ethic, and very few of them have trouble getting a job once they leave because they learn how to work and accomplish things and think through something at Pinehaven. On a ranch, there's always something to do. There's a fence to be fixed. There's a building that needs some maintenance. There's a ton of stuff that needs done. We have a garden and we might have a building project. And so these kids are learning a lot of different skills. Not necessarily we're teaching them a trade, but it's just what we do in everyday life on a ranch. And it's part of why a ranch life is just so wholesome and wonderful for these kids, because they learn how to do that. Every summer we have a lot of firewood that we need to put up, about 150 cords, so we can heat our houses and some of our other buildings with wood that we take off the back of the ranch. We also do about 8,000 to 12,000 square hay bales. Sometimes people want to know, why haven't you transitioned to the big round square bales or big round bales? And the reason for that is, we don't have the equipment, and this way our cows get a square meal. As we're getting all that work done in a summer, we have work groups that come from all over the U.S. to help us out. For 7 weeks, we have about 3 groups a week, so that's somewhere between 200 and 300 people that come and help us in the summer from all over. They come from a Saturday to a Saturday for a 1-week period, and they help us with all those things we need to get done. And it's just such a blessing for those people to step in and be there with the kids and encourage them, encourage the house parents. Plus, we have to get a lot done because in Montana, we have short summers. I believe that last year our summer was on Thursday, so there's a lot to get done in that short amount of time. One of the things that we're doing at Pinehaven is we're working with the behavior of these kids because many have been in trouble with the law. They've been in trouble at school. Of course, there's trouble at home. And so they need to figure out how to control their actions and make wise decisions. And so here at Pinehaven, the consistency between home and school really helps that out. And then there's also some disciplinary action and consequences for kids that don't behave a certain way. And it's very easy for them to know where that line is because at Pinehaven, this is where it is. If you step step over that, then you're going to have a consequence, such as there's loss of privilege through groundings, or maybe they're writing some sentences so that they understand what behavior it is that they need to change. And the worst thing that'll happen to them at Pinehaven is scooping cow manure. If you decide to lie, steal, fight, or cheat in school, you might spend some quality time in what we call the dairy pen scooping cow manure. And the reason for that is, it's a job that needs to be done. It's stinky. Nobody likes to do it. But it's good for some of these kids to spend some time where they don't want to be, because we're trying to teach them cause and effect. Because, if you don't behave the way you're supposed to, there's going to be a consequence for that. And at Pinehaven, that is the dairy pen scooping. Later on in life, that's going to look something like prison. And ultimately, we're talking about hell. And so we want these kids to know to be doing what they need to be doing so that they can be where they want to be. Not just at Pinehaven, but for eternity. At Pinehaven, there's always work to be done. And so the kids are always doing something with the daily chores and the other things we have to get done. But we also try to balance that with some play, because you need to not just have work all the time. It's one of the things that we try to do with the kids is every summer they get a chance to go to church camp. It's something that they have to earn. And so when they do, they get to go to their corresponding week of church camp, rub shoulders with some other kids from the area, have some good Bible teaching, and then just get to enjoy that time away from the ranch. Because sometimes it's good to break up that structure and schedule and give them some time off. Another thing we like to do with the kids is what we call pack trip. It's a backpacking trip where the kids put everything they need for a few days on their backs, and they hike in a number of miles, usually to a mountain lake somewhere on the Montana-Idaho border. And when we go in and we do that, they've got to carry in their sleeping bag, their tent, their clothes, their food, their cooking utensils, hopefully a fishing pole. And it's just a great time for the kids to get out in nature and enjoy being out there for a few days. Hopefully they learn to cook their own food, burn their own food, that sort of thing, and just enjoy getting to be out and doing that. One of the things that they can earn is getting to go hunting. We live in a very wild place here in Montana. We do have bears and such, and whenever I bring a new kid in, I do tell them not to run away because the bears will eat them. We haven't had any eaten yet. But we will take the kids hunting. That's if their parents are okay with it, if the kids want to. We're not going to force anybody to, but they have to complete a hunter safety course. We take them out and teach them to be safe and accurate with a firearm. And again, we watch. And if they don't earn this right, then they do not get to do this. And so in everything we do, we try to have it be something where they get to earn it and they have an incentive for improving and being who they need to be. But it's fun to get them out there in the woods of Montana somewhere to look for a mule deer or a whitetail. And the purpose is meat. It's something that we eat there on the table. There's a lot of adventure to it and there's trophy quality, but for the most part, it's for meat, and we utilize everything that we can that way. Towards the end of the year, of course, is Christmas, and all kids love Christmas. And we want the kids to know that Christmas is about Jesus Christ. It's not about the presents or the Christmas tree or Frosty the Snowman, Santa Claus. It's about Jesus Christ who came to this earth as a baby so that later he could die for our sins. And so the house parents sit down and the kids gather around them and they read the Bible story, and then they pray with the kids before we ever get into the presents. And at that time, we'll also read some cards and let the kids know that a lot of people around the country have donated to make this possible for them to not only be at Pinehaven, but to have those gifts that they get to get into there. Some of the kids don't get to go home. Usually they'll get a week in the summer to go home for vacation and a week at Christmas. Again, something that they need to earn. But some of those kids won't get to go home at Christmas. And so a couple days after Christmas, when all the other kids are gone, we'll take those kids that are left out to a bowling alley somewhere and then pizza afterwards, just to kind of take their mind off it. So we try to do a number. There's some other things that we do to get the kids off site sometimes and have some fun, that sort of thing. Because you got to balance work and play. At Pinehaven, Jesus is the very center of everything that we do. We can work on rebuilding the family. We can work on behavior. We can help these kids get through school. But until they give their lives to Jesus Christ, there's no lasting change. You guys know that Jesus Christ is the only one that changes lives for eternity. And that's what these kids need in their lives. And so everything about Pinehaven is centered around him. In the homes, it is a Christian home. When they go to school, it is a Christian school. They go to a church camp. They're in church every time the doors are open and they participate. They don't just go and sit. And really, with everything we do at Pinehaven, these kids have been through so many counselors and psychiatrists and psychologists, and that isn't working for these kids. And so it would be insanity for us to try the same thing and expect different results. So we bring them into this atmosphere, surround them with Jesus Christ and love all the time. When they make that decision to give their lives to Jesus Christ, that's when the real change happens. And of the 500 and some kids that have been at Pinehaven, almost everyone has given their life to Jesus Christ. And we've been able to baptize them into his death, burial, and resurrection so that one day they can walk with him in a newness of life in heaven forever and ever and ever. And so that is the very center of what we're doing here at Pinehaven.